The galaxy was silent. For thousands of years, alien empires had ruled the stars without fear. The Great Council believed no young race could ever rise to challenge them. They spoke of Earth as a small, unimportant world. To them, humans were noisy but weak, reckless but harmless, still learning how to fly among the stars. In the council chambers, mighty leaders argued about politics, trade, and old wars, but the name of humanity was rarely mentioned. To the galaxy, Earth was just another world spinning quietly around its sun. Yet this silence was a mistake. While the galaxy slept in comfort, humanity was awake in secret. Beneath the calm surface of Earth, something powerful was growing. The alien empires thought they saw everything with their vast fleets and giant stations, but they did not see what was hidden in the shadows. Humanity had learned long ago that survival came not from showing strength too early, but from waiting until the right moment. And so they waited, in silence, while working on a plan that would one day shake the stars. Humanity was underestimated. The council looked at them and saw children playing with rockets, not warriors forging weapons of impossible size. But the humans knew better. They remembered their history, centuries of war, struggle, invention, and survival. They knew the galaxy was not safe, that the so-called peace of the council was only a fragile glass waiting to break. Somewhere, someday, enemies would come, and Earth had to be ready. Deep beneath the oceans, under mountains, and in the dark side of the moon, vast projects had begun. Secret bases were hidden where no alien eyes could reach. Even the signals of construction were masked, coded, and disguised. To an alien ship passing by, Earth was quiet. To the human leaders watching from hidden command centers, Earth was a storm of work and fire. Engineers worked day and night, never speaking of their task to outsiders. Soldiers guarded entrances that did not exist on any map. Entire industries were built in silence, their output vanishing into secret channels. The people did not know, but their leaders did. A plan had been made generations ago, and now it was becoming real. While alien races debated in the council about trade routes and taxes, humanity was building planet-sized warships in the shadows. Ships so massive they could not be compared to anything else. They were not simple carriers or cruisers, they were floating worlds, armed with weapons that could tear apart fleets in moments. Each warship was a secret continent, hidden from the galaxy, a weapon that would make humanity impossible to ignore. The first scientists who proposed the idea were called dreamers, maybe even madmen. But humanity had always trusted its dreamers. Where aliens laughed at impossible visions, humans tried to make them real. And now, after years of silence, those dreams were almost finished. The galaxy still believed Earth was quiet, harmless, sleeping. But the galaxy was wrong. On the edge of known space, the stars continued to burn, unaware of the storm rising near the little blue world. The council members rested in their halls, smug and confident, not knowing that humanity's shadow was already stretching across the void. The aliens thought they were safe because their spies saw nothing. But the spies did not understand human patience, human secrecy, human determination. The more the galaxy ignored them, the harder humanity worked in silence. For the humans, every insult, every dismissal, every moment of being called weak was fuel for the fire. They would not remain weak. They would not remain silent forever. The warships were almost ready, hidden in the deep dark where no telescope could see. Planet-sized giants waiting for the day they would rise. The galaxy had no idea, and that ignorance would cost them everything. Humanity had prepared not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. They did not trust the peace of the council. They had seen too much war in their own history to believe in eternal safety. So they planned, they worked, and they built. And as the galaxy slept, they forged weapons greater than anything the stars had ever known. The silence would not last forever. Soon the galaxy would wake up. And when it did, it would see what humanity had built in the shadows. It would see the planet-sized warships rising from the dark. It would see the truth, that Earth was never weak, never harmless, never asleep. The humans were waiting. The humans were ready. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Far beneath the surface of Earth, hidden from every eye in the galaxy, the great secret project continued to grow. It was not a single base or a single station, but a web of hidden sites spread across oceans, mountains, and distant moons. The humans had learned to cloak their signals, to bury their power plants deep inside the ground, and to hide every movement as if the future of their species depended on it. And in truth, it did. They knew that if even one alien ship discovered the truth too early, the entire galaxy would descend upon Earth with fire and destruction. That was why secrecy was not a choice, it was survival. Workers lived in silence, knowing they could never speak about what they built. Engineers designed machines larger than anything in human history, machines meant to shape steel the size of mountains, machines that carved out space for engines greater than cities. They called it simply the project, but those who worked there knew it was more than that. It was humanity's shield, humanity's answer to the arrogance of the Galactic Council. On the dark side of the moon, enormous hangars were carved into the rock, invisible to any alien scan. Inside those caverns, massive frames began to take shape, frames that would one day become warships the size of planets. They stretched so far that a person standing at one end could not see the other. In hollowed-out asteroids drifting silently in space, hidden foundries burned hotter than the sun, forging weapons beyond imagination. Even the oceans of Earth held secrets. Under the crushing depths where no light touched, hidden factories worked tirelessly, guarded by silence and pressure. Everywhere, the work was the same: build, hide, and never reveal. The leaders of Earth knew that secrecy was the strongest weapon they had until the warships were complete. Entire industries had been redirected without the people realizing it. Materials vanished, records were altered, and history itself was rewritten to cover the trail. If a curious mind asked too many questions, they were given false answers, distractions, or sent far away from the truth. Even among the workers, no one saw the full picture. Each group only knew a piece of the puzzle, a part of the ship, a fragment of the weapon. Only at the highest level did anyone understand what was being created. There, in hidden chambers of command, the leaders spoke quietly. They knew the risk. They knew if the Council discovered them now, humanity would be crushed before the warships could rise. But they also knew they had no other choice. The galaxy would not protect Earth. The Council had never cared for young races, never protected them from stronger predators. Humanity had watched worlds fall before. They had seen civilizations vanish while the Council stood still, arguing and doing nothing. That would not happen to Earth. And so, in silence, the humans prepared. Decades turned into centuries of work. Generations were born, lived, and died, never knowing the true purpose of their labor. The ships grew piece by piece, hidden from the stars, built with patience and sacrifice. At first they looked like skeletons of giants, nothing but empty frames, but slowly they gained flesh and armor. Layers of steel, shields thicker than any fleet had ever seen, weapons designed not just for battle but for survival of the species. The first completed engines were so large they could swallow mountains. When tested in silence, they shook entire caverns, their roar muffled but their power undeniable. Scientists and engineers recorded everything, making sure no trace leaked into space. Cloaking fields wrapped the tests, ensuring no alien telescope could detect the energy. To the galaxy, Earth was quiet. To humanity, Earth was alive with thunder. And still, no one outside knew. Alien scouts passed by, their sensors searching, but they saw nothing. Just a peaceful blue planet with satellites and small ships, nothing to fear. They had no idea what hid beneath the surface, what was being forged in the shadows. Humanity's secret was safe, and with every passing year, the warships grew closer to completion. Those who worked in the project often asked themselves a question in silence. What would happen when the ships were ready? Would humanity reveal them to the galaxy as a warning, or would they wait until the day they were attacked? No one knew. The leaders kept their silence, their faces hard, their decisions hidden. All the workers knew was that something vast and unstoppable was rising, and it was rising for the survival of mankind. Deep in their hearts, they believed the day would come when the galaxy would finally see the truth. And on that day, the stars themselves would tremble. High above Earth, beyond the blue sky and the thin veil of atmosphere, the stars burned quietly, but among them drifted something else. A small alien scout ship moved through the darkness, silent and patient, its crew searching for signs of trouble. They were not warriors, only watchers, tasked by the Galactic Council to keep an eye on the young world called Earth. To the Council, humanity was still a child of the stars, clever but reckless, loud but harmless, a race not yet worth fearing. The Watchers believed the same. They had come many times before, circling the planet, scanning its oceans, its mountains, its cities, and always they had found nothing unusual. Earth appeared simple, a world busy with its own small struggles, nowhere near the power of the great empires. But this time was different, though the Watchers did not yet know it. Their sensors swept the surface, their eyes studied the blue and green world below, but what they saw was only a mask. They did not see the hidden bases beneath the seas, or the massive caverns carved into the moon's dark side. They did not see the asteroids turned into forges, or the frames of warships stretching like giants in the shadows. To them, Earth was quiet, almost too quiet, but their instruments gave them no reason to doubt. Humanity had mastered the art of hiding, cloaking every signal, covering every trace, making sure that to alien eyes Earth looked like nothing more than a peaceful planet of little importance. The scout ship circled again, and one of the alien crew frowned. He thought he saw something strange, a shadow on the edge of his scanner, a reading that made no sense. But when he checked again, it was gone. His commander dismissed it as noise, just static, nothing to worry about. The alien crew laughed quietly, mocking the idea that humans could ever hide something so large, so powerful, that their great machines could be invisible. To them, humans were still weak, still bound to their little planet, still years away from becoming dangerous. They sent their final report back to the Council: Earth is quiet. Earth is harmless. And then they turned away, leaving the planet behind. They did not know that their sensors had brushed against the edge of something vast, something their minds could not imagine, a shadow so great it had been mistaken for empty space. The humans watched them go. Deep inside command centers buried under rock, leaders observed the scout ship through hidden lenses. They saw the aliens turn away, blind to the truth, and they knew their secrets were still safe. But the Watchers had come too close. If their instruments had been stronger, if their patience had been longer, the truth might have been revealed. Humanity had escaped discovery by the smallest margin. Inside the hidden halls, the human leaders spoke in whispers. They knew the danger. One slip, one mistake, and the entire galaxy would see what they had built. The Council would send fleets, armadas larger than anything humanity could face, and the project would be destroyed before it was complete. That was why secrecy was sacred, why every worker was sworn to silence, why every trace of energy was buried and disguised. The Watchers above had seen nothing, but next time it might not be the same. Humanity had to be perfect. And so they worked harder, tightened their shadows, cloaked their signals deeper, and prepared for the day when the Watchers would return. Meanwhile, among the stars, rumors spread. Some alien traders whispered that Earth was too quiet, too secret, that no world should be so hidden without reason. Others laughed, dismissing it as nonsense. After all, what could humans build? They had no fleets, no great stations, no history of conquest. They were children, nothing more. Yet not everyone believed that. A few in the Council began to wonder. And those whispers, though faint, would one day grow into fear. But for now, the galaxy remained blind. The Watchers above had failed. Humanity remained hidden. And in the shadows, the planet-sized warships continued to rise, their frames growing stronger, their engines waiting to ignite. Earth was still quiet to the galaxy, but to those who knew the truth, Earth was a storm waiting to be unleashed. The Watchers had left, but their mistake would echo through history. They had looked directly at the future and seen nothing. They had watched humanity, and yet they had not seen humanity at all. The day finally came when silence gave birth to something greater, the moment when the first of humanity's hidden giants opened its eyes. It was called Titan, a name whispered only in the deepest shadows, a name that carried both fear and pride. Titan was not a ship in the way the galaxy understood ships. It was a moving world, a machine so vast that entire nations could have lived inside it. Its hull stretched wider than moons, its core burned brighter than any city, and its power was enough to shatter fleets in a single breath. Yet when it was completed, there were no parades, no cheers, no banners flying in celebration. Titan rose in silence, just as it had been built in silence. Only the few who had guided the project were allowed to stand in the hidden chamber and watch the first awakening. Engineers stared in awe as the ship's systems came alive, light spreading across its surface like dawn rising across a planet. The engines, larger than mountains, hummed quietly as if waiting to roar. Deep inside its core, weapons beyond imagination rested, sleeping but ready. It was the first of its kind, the first of many, and it carried with it the weight of humanity's future. The leaders looked at Titan and felt both relief and dread. Relief, because at last their secret plan had become real, proof that humanity could build something the galaxy had never dreamed possible. Dread, because now there was no turning back. The warship was too large to ever be hidden forever, too powerful to exist without one day being seen. The first awakening meant the clock had begun to tick, and sooner or later, the galaxy would notice. Titan was tested in silence, its systems checked with care, its engines fired only in cloaked caverns where their thunder could not be heard beyond the shadows. Scientists studied every signal, making sure no trace escaped into the stars. Even so, the leaders knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. The size of Titan alone was a secret that could not remain hidden forever. Humanity was playing with fire, but it was fire they needed. In the deep control rooms, the workers whispered among themselves. They had given years, some even their entire lives, to build this machine, and now it stood before them like a sleeping god. To touch its steel walls was to feel history itself, to know that their species had stepped into a future no one else could imagine. Yet none of them could speak of it. Outside those walls, the world remained unaware. Ordinary humans lived their lives, went to work, raised families, and dreamed of the stars, never knowing that their future was already being forged in secret. Titan remained hidden, a giant waiting in the shadows, a weapon that could not yet be revealed. The galaxy still slept in ignorance, the Council still mocked humanity as weak, but the truth was now alive. The first warship had awakened. In the darkness of space, as Titan's systems were tested, a strange feeling spread among those who saw it. It was not only pride or fear, but something greater, a sense that history itself had shifted. Humanity was no longer bound by the limits the galaxy had placed upon it. Humanity had broken free. Titan was the first proof that the old balance of power would not last, that the Council's arrogance would one day crumble. For now, however, it was a secret. The leaders ordered silence, the workers obeyed, and Titan remained cloaked in darkness. But everyone who looked upon it knew the same truth: the galaxy had changed, even if the galaxy did not yet know it. Titan's awakening was the beginning. The first breath of something vast. The first shadow of a storm that would soon sweep across the stars. And in that moment, as the lights of Titan glowed in the hidden chambers of space, humanity stood taller than it ever had before. They were no longer a weak race waiting for the galaxy's judgment. They were builders of worlds, creators of giants, and keepers of a secret that would one day shake the heavens. The first awakening had come, and nothing would ever be the same again. Far across the stars, rumors began to drift like smoke through the halls of the Galactic Council. At first, they were only whispers, small voices carried by traders and scouts who passed near the human world. They said Earth was too quiet, that humanity was hiding something, that the blue planet which once filled the airwaves with noise had fallen strangely silent. The Council laughed when they heard it. To them, humanity was nothing more than a curious little race that had barely touched the stars. They could not imagine humans keeping secrets so large that even the Council's spies had missed them. But whispers have power, and soon they became harder to ignore. Reports began to pile up, strange energy readings on the edge of the solar system, shadows that moved where no moon or asteroid should be, signals that flickered and died before anyone could trace them. A few alien commanders argued that it was nothing but tricks of the sensors, simple errors caused by the strange nature of human technology. Others were not so sure. They spoke of humanity's past, of how quickly they had risen, of how stubborn they had proven even when facing impossible odds. The council dismissed these warnings, but not everyone believed in that comfort. Somewhere on the edge of known space, another scout ship was sent toward Earth. It was meant to silence the rumors, to prove once and for all that humans were still harmless. But when its crew scanned the system, they found something they could not explain. A reading, faint but undeniable, of mass larger than any station should possess, drifting in the darkness beyond the moon. The commander of the scout ship froze. He checked the data again and again, certain it was a mistake, but the numbers did not lie. Something enormous was hiding in the shadows. It was not a planet, not a moon, not an asteroid. It was something else. The crew grew nervous. They debated sending a report, fearing that if they were wrong they would be mocked, but in the end they could not ignore the truth. They sent their message back to the council, short and sharp: Earth hides something vast. The words rippled through the chambers of the council like thunder. At first there was laughter, then silence, then fear. The great empires argued furiously. Some said humanity could not possibly build something of such size, that it was nothing but lies or tricks. Others whispered that perhaps humanity had done the impossible. Panic spread quickly. If the report was true, then humanity had broken every limit the council believed unbreakable. If the report was false, then someone was playing a dangerous game with fear. The council could not decide. Half demanded war, to strike Earth at once before the secret could grow. The other half warned caution, fearful of provoking something they did not yet understand. And all the while, the humans watched in silence. From their hidden command centers, they intercepted the scouts' transmissions. They knew the galaxy had seen the shadow of Titan. The great secret was still safe, but the first cracks had appeared. The question was no longer if the galaxy would notice, but when. In the depths of space, Titan remained cloaked, its systems quiet, its engines resting. But even in silence, its size betrayed it. Humanity had built something too vast to remain hidden forever. The leaders of Earth stood together, their faces hard. They knew the council was beginning to fear them, and fear could lead to war. Yet they also knew that this fear was their greatest weapon. 4 years, humanity had been ignored, mocked, dismissed as weak. Now, for the first time, the galaxy was whispering their name with unease. The warship Titan had not fired a single shot, yet it had already shaken the balance of power. And still, the council did not know the full truth. Titan was not alone. More giants were being built in silence, more planet ships hidden beneath cloaks and shadows, each one stronger than the last. Humanity's plan was not yet finished, but the galaxy was already beginning to notice. Soon, the whispers would turn into alarms, and the alarms would turn into fear. The humans knew it. The galaxy felt it. The silence was ending, and the storm was about to begin. The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with noise as the report from the alien scouts spread like fire. The delegates of the empires shouted at one another, their voices echoing across the chamber, each one demanding to be heard. Some laughed at the idea that humanity could build something so massive, calling it a trick of shadows, a lie from frightened scouts. But others did not laugh. They leaned forward with sharp eyes, reading the details again and again, their faces pale with worry. The numbers were clear, mass beyond explanation, hidden in the human system, cloaked yet too large to be ignored. If the report was true, then humanity had done something no young race had ever achieved. The fear began to grow. Some demanded immediate war, calling for fleets to be sent to Earth to crush whatever the humans were hiding before it could rise. They spoke with anger, but beneath their anger was fear, the fear that they had underestimated a species they had always mocked. Others warned caution. They whispered that if the humans truly had built a planet-sized weapon, then to attack too soon might be disaster. If we strike and fail, one delegate cried, the humans will never forgive. They will rise, and all our empires will burn. The chamber roared with debate, empires turning against each other, some calling for blood, some calling for patience. The council leader tried to bring order, but even his voice was drowned in the storm. For centuries, the galaxy had believed itself secure, its balance of power unshaken. But now a shadow had appeared, a shadow from the humans, and no one knew what it meant. Spies were ordered to Earth at once. Scout ships were prepared to sweep the system again, this time with stronger sensors. Fleets were moved closer, though quietly, as if the empires feared that too much movement would provoke what they did not yet understand. The fear of humanity had begun. In the private chambers of the council, whispers grew darker. Some remembered old records of humanity's past, of their endless wars, their hunger for survival, their refusal to surrender even when outnumbered. If any race could build such ships in silence, one elder murmured, it would be the humans. The others looked at him with unease, for they knew his words carried truth. Outside the council, rumors spread like fire through the galaxy. Traders spoke of shadows larger than moons. Soldiers spoke of fleets moving toward Earth. Citizens whispered in fear, wondering if war was coming, wondering if the humans were already stronger than anyone knew. And in the middle of it all, Earth remained silent. Humanity did not answer the whispers. Humanity did not speak to the council. Humanity continued its work in shadows, building more giants, stronger and greater than Titan, each one cloaked, each one waiting. The silence of Earth only fed the fear. If humanity was weak, why did they not speak? If humanity had nothing, why did they not laugh at the rumors? The silence was an answer in itself, and the council felt it like ice. Fear turned to anger. Anger turned to division. Some empires threatened to act on their own, to send fleets without the council's approval. Others warned that such a move would bring disaster upon everyone. The council fractured, its unity breaking. And all the while, hidden deep beneath the stars, humanity watched. They had intercepted the messages. They knew the council argued. They knew fear had taken root. And they smiled in silence, for this was part of their plan. To keep building, to keep hiding, until the day came when no fleet could stand against them. The galaxy trembled with fear of a shadow, but soon it would tremble before the truth. The council had always thought of humans as children. Now they feared they had raised a giant in secret. And as the arguments raged, as the fleets shifted, as the spies hurried toward Earth, a question burned in every mind. What if the rumors were true? What if humanity had truly forged planet-sized warships in the dark? If that was true, then the galaxy's future no longer belonged to the Council. It belonged to Earth. The day finally came when humanity decided the time for silence was over. For years they had worked in the shadows, building their giants while the galaxy slept, hiding their strength from the eyes of the Council. But now the Council's whispers had grown too loud, their fleets had moved too close, their spies had searched too deep. The leaders of Earth knew the secret could not remain hidden forever, and so they chose to reveal it on their own terms. In the darkness of the solar system, far beyond the orbit of Mars, 10 planet-sized warships awakened together. Their lights flared against the void, their engines stirred with power, and their vast hulls glowed like new stars. Each one was larger than moons, armed with weapons beyond imagination, shields thicker than any fortress, and power cores that pulsed like hearts of suns. For the first time, they moved in unison, rising from their hidden places, no longer cloaked, no longer silent. Across the galaxy, sensors screamed. Alien stations caught the signals, traders gasped as they saw the giants rising, and the council chambers fell silent as the reports poured in. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had built the impossible. The council watched in horror as images reached them, 10 world ships standing like gods in the dark, their shadows falling across planets, their presence rewriting the balance of power in a single breath. The hall that once rang with arguments was now filled with silence, a silence heavy with fear. Some delegates trembled, whispering that humanity was unstoppable. Others shouted in anger, demanding war before the humans grew even stronger, but their voices sounded weak, for no one could deny what they saw. The revelation had come, and it had changed everything. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people themselves finally saw the truth. Across screens and broadcasts, the image of Titan and its brothers filled the sky, and humanity wept with pride. For years they had not known what their leaders built in secret, but now they saw, and they understood. These ships were not only weapons, they were survival, they were hope, they were the proof that humanity would never bow to any empire. The leaders of Earth sent a single message to the galaxy, a message carried by every giant warship, a message that shook the stars. It was not a threat, not a declaration of conquest, but a simple truth: we are awake. We will not kneel. We will not surrender. Humanity stands. The words echoed across space, heard by every empire, felt by every race, and the Council could not deny their power. The fear that had grown in whispers now burned like fire. For the first time in history, the galaxy understood that Earth was no longer weak. Humanity had revealed its true strength, and it was greater than anything the stars had ever seen. The warships moved slowly, their engines shaking space itself, forming a formation that no fleet could match. Even without firing a single shot, they were already the most powerful force the galaxy had ever known. The revelation spread across every world, and people looked to the humans with awe and terror. Some wondered if Earth would become a tyrant, others prayed they would become protectors, but all knew one truth: nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy had been blind, but now its eyes were open, and what it saw was a race that had risen in secret to challenge the order of the stars. Humanity had revealed its giants, and the revelation was only the beginning. The galaxy stood frozen as the human warships moved across the void, their colossal forms blotting out the light of stars, their shadows falling over alien worlds like the wings of titans. For centuries the Council had ruled unchallenged, believing themselves the masters of order, the guardians of peace, but now they watched helplessly as 10 planet-sized giants declared the arrival of a new power. The message from Earth repeated across every channel: we are awake. We will not kneel. We will not surrender. Humanity stands. Those words carried a weight no weapon could match, for they revealed not only strength but certainty, the certainty of a race that had suffered, struggled, and survived against all odds. Fear gripped the Council. Some empires prepared fleets, their admirals shouting that humanity must be stopped before they spread beyond control, but even as they spoke their voices shook with doubt. Others begged for peace, warning that war against giants would mean extinction for all. The Council fractured, their unity breaking apart under the weight of humanity's revelation. Across the stars, ordinary citizens watched in silence. On distant worlds, children pointed at the sky as images of the warships filled every screen. Traders whispered of fleets useless against such monsters, soldiers trembled at the thought of facing weapons strong enough to burn planets. The galaxy had lived in arrogance, but now it knew humility. The stars themselves seemed to bow before the power that had risen in secret. Humanity did not strike first. They did not send their warships to conquer. Instead the giants spread slowly outward from the solar system, not as invaders but as guardians. Their presence alone was enough to shake every empire, their shadows forcing the galaxy to reconsider everything it thought it knew about strength. The leaders of Earth spoke again, sending their words not only to the Council but to every race that lived beneath its rule. You have 2 choices. Stand with us, or be left behind. The meaning was clear. Humanity was not offering conquest, but neither were they offering submission. They had risen to claim their place, and no empire could deny them. Some worlds cheered, hoping that humanity's rise would finally break the chains of the old Council. Others watched in terror, wondering if the humans would one day turn their giants into weapons of domination. But all agreed on one truth: the balance of power was broken. The shaking of the stars had begun. Titan and its brothers spread their wings across the void, their engines brighter than suns, their weapons silent but heavy with promise. Wherever they moved, fleets retreated, afraid to challenge them. The galaxy whispered of a new age, an age where Earth would decide the course of history. In the hidden chambers of the Council, fear turned to desperation. Some leaders cried that humanity must be destroyed at any cost, but none dared give the order, for they knew that any attack might bring the wrath of giants, and no fleet would survive such a storm. Others whispered that perhaps it was wiser to bend, to accept humanity's rise, to ally with them rather than fight. The Council had never been so divided, never been so weak. And humanity knew this. From their command centers, the leaders of Earth watched the galaxy tremble. They saw the fear, the doubt, the cracks spreading through the empires that once mocked them, and they understood that their plan had worked. For generations they had hidden, building in silence, waiting for the moment when their power could not be denied. That moment had come. The galaxy had no idea until it was too late. Now every star knew the truth. Humanity had risen from the shadows with warships larger than worlds, and the future belonged to them. The shaking of the stars was not the end, but the beginning. The humans would not kneel, the humans would not hide, and the humans would never again be dismissed as weak. They had shown their strength, and the galaxy would never forget it.